Section 1, Anatomy of a Legend. Let's get into it.
Right, so to truly understand this incredibly brief text, we've got to first deconstruct the massive cultural weight of the actual vocabulary the author chose to use. Because when you've only got a handful of words, every single syllable carries explosive meaning. Let's take a look at the opening line from our source material. Excerpts from The Legend of Cristiano Ronaldo. Now, what's really fascinating here is how this instantly frames the subject. The author doesn't say the biography of or the statistics of, right? By intentionally choosing the word legend, the text literally immediately elevates the subject. It takes him from a mere mortal, an athlete who just plays a game, and turns him into this mythic, larger-than-life figure. It demands that we look at this person through the lens of epic storytelling, rather than just standard sports journalism. Let's ground this a bit by breaking down what that word actually means. So a legend is generally defined in two specific ways. First, as a traditional story, sometimes popularly regarded as historical but unauthenticated, and second, as an extremely famous or notorious person. And you know what? Our source material is brilliantly playing with both of these definitions. It's really asking us to consider how a name crosses that invisible line from a breathing, sweating reality out there on the soccer pitch into a historical myth that's going to be passed down for generations, almost like a folktale. And this comparison right here is absolutely key. On one side, you have the historical myth. Think of ancient tales, Hercules or Achilles, unauthenticated stories of superhuman feats from way back in the distant past. But then on the other side, you've got the living figure, a contemporary guy whose matches are broadcast globally in ultra-high definition, whose every single movement is tracked by data and cameras. The source text deliberately blurs these two completely different concepts together. It's boldly suggesting that even while this person is still a living, breathing guy, the historical myth has already completely taken over. The legend is already written in stone. Section 2, The Nature of Excerpts. Okay, so we've talked about the legend part of the title. Now we really need to analyze the concept of the excerpt itself and this incredibly powerful tension that's created by what our source material intentionally leaves out. An excerpt is defined as a short extract from a larger piece of writing. Well, by leading with this word, the author is explicitly telling us that we are only seeing a tiny, tiny fragment. By literally calling it an excerpt, they're openly acknowledging that there is a massive, invisible narrative out there, a huge, sprawling library of goals, trophies, controversies, and triumphs that they are deliberately choosing not to show us. The author is basically playing a masterclass game of omission. Which naturally leads us directly to this question. If this is only an excerpt, well, where's the rest of the story? Why aren't we seeing paragraphs of text about Champions League victories, Ballon d'Or awards, or record-breaking goal tallies? And honestly, the answer is profound. The complete absence of additional biographical data in the source material is, paradoxically, the entire point. It's the central message. You literally don't need the rest of the story written down for you because you already know it. The global cultural consciousness just fills in that blank space automatically. And this brilliantly illustrates the philosophical procedure of the source text. It operates in two very deliberate steps. Step 1, acknowledge the legend, which, as we saw, we did with the title. Step 2, extract the core essence. The author intentionally strips away all the surrounding noise, all the statistics, the historical debates, all that endless sports commentary, just to leave the absolute most vital, undeniable component of the whole story. Section 3, Cristiano Ronaldo, the monolith. Now we're going to focus on the sheer gravity of what happens when a subject's name stands completely alone in the void. What is the actual excerpt that the source gives us after such a massive grand introduction? Well, the name itself is the entire story. See, sometimes no further contextual data is even needed. When a figure reaches a certain, stratospheric level of cultural saturation, their name alone carries the full, heavy weight of the legend. To add adjectives or descriptions would honestly just diminish the impact at that point. And the author absolutely knows this and leverages it perfectly. Cristiano. Just notice how that single word sits there in stark silence. That extreme negative space all around it, it isn't actually empty. It's practically vibrating with everything you associate with that word. The immense dedication, the flair, the absolute global icon status. Literally just the first name alone is enough to conjure up an entire era of sporting history in your mind's eye. And it does it without a single statistic being presented. And then we get the completion of the monolith, Ronaldo. This mirrors the exact final excerpt provided in our incredibly brief source text, Cristiano Ronaldo. That's it. That is the entire excerpt the source provides. I mean, it is a stunningly powerful literary statement. The author is presenting the name as an undisputed fact.